If you don't love yourself, if you don't appreciate yourself, if you don't respect yourself, it's very hard to receive love from others, to receive appreciation, to receive validation, and to even give it out.
This episode is brought to you by Discam.
Hello, Wisdom and Wellness family. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Wisdom and Wellness podcast. Thank you so much for continuing to watch, to listen, be it on Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. We really appreciate you guys supporting us, and we appreciate the comments, and we appreciate you just interacting and loving on our guests. So it's another week, and can you believe it? We are actually almost a week away from our fest, our Unlimited Festival, which is sold out, by the way. And I cannot wait to meet so many of you. I cannot wait to be in the same space. I cannot wait to honestly have an unlimited time. But before that, I want to get into today's podcast. Today's podcast is actually titled Self-Love and Boundaries. Before that, let me announce our current book. I know it's a bit late, but looking at the festival and when we announced our January book, I think it's still a good time to announce our February/our March book. We are going to be reading the long-awaited, drumroll, 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. Now, I know for a fact, based on our statistics and everything else, that most people who listen to our podcast love Jay Shetty. I absolutely love him. I am inspired by his work, inspired by his podcast, inspired by his books, and just his whole contribution to the media, the social space, and even just the mental health platforms. So we are reading 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. How to find it, keep it, and let it go. He did do a slight introduction on his podcast as well. So if you want to listen to that, go check it out. But this is the book that we're reading. You can get it on any bookstores, wherever you buy your books from. So we are speaking about self-love and boundaries. Now, why I decided to, get into that topic, it is the month of love, but this year, on my 29th birthday, which was the 23rd of January, I woke up and I said to myself, actually, I think I like myself. Now, it sounds like such a simple thing to say, or duh, aren't you supposed to like yourself, or isn't that supposed to be natural? But it hasn't always been the case for me. It's not like I didn't, and I think I've spoken about this quite a few times. It's not that I hated myself or I lacked confidence, but I always felt like I had to fix myself. There's certain things that I need to do better, which is okay. I still believe in growth. There's still some character that needs to be built in me. But for the most part, I am content, and I love me, and I love spending time with me. And I realized how I got to this place is that for the last 4 years or so, I have spent a significant amount of time with myself. Before, I don't think I ever really did, and this is why I always advocate for being part of the 5 a.m. club, because naturally you wake up early, your phone's quiet, the kids are quiet, family's quiet, everybody's sleeping, the world is shut down. Instagram, nobody's online. So it's kind of just you and God, and you and the sky, and you and nature, and you and yourself. And so for the last 4 years, that's what I've been doing. And I've managed to spend so much time with myself. Initially, it was very, very uncomfortable, and it's like awkward. You want to fiddle on your phone, you want to listen to music. But I learned to just be with myself in quietness, and over time I learned that I really like myself. As a result, this year I spent my birthday by myself. Well, the most of my birthday. In the morning I was obviously with the kids and my husband, and then I went to a spa, and I spent the whole day at a spa by myself. Got a massage, I had lunch by myself, I went to the jacuzzi, the steam room. I spent the entire day by myself, and I was actually gushing and blushing because, oh my gosh, who's this girl? I like her so much. I like spending time with her. And then later I spent time with my husband. But yeah, so that's the basis of speaking on love, self-love, and boundaries, is that I think I'm at a place where I love myself. And don't get me wrong, I still have those moments where I have to catch myself and say, hey, you're not being kind to yourself. Hey, Don't say that about yourself. Don't look at yourself like that. But for the most part, I am okay with me. Now, as I started reading this book, 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty, I wanted to read this opening quote. So he split up the book basically into 4 parts: solitude, compatibility, healing, and connection. And by solitude, he's obviously speaking about spending time with self. And he says, this is the quote, sort of the opening quote. He says, "We prepare for love by learning how to be alone and learning from our past relationships how to improve our next one. Alone, we learn to love ourselves, to understand ourselves, to heal our own pain, and to care for ourselves." I'm going to read it again. "We prepare for love by learning how to be alone and learning from our past relationships how to improve our next one. Alone, we learn to love ourselves, to understand ourselves, to heal our pain, and to care for ourselves." I know you guys love this topic because every time I talk about boundaries, or every time you guys see a quote or a video on boundaries, you guys are sending it in my DMs because we are the queen of boundaries. Not because we've mastered it, but because we are drilling it in our heads that we need boundaries. I've been vocal about how much I've struggled with setting boundaries, and I don't always get it right, but where I have mastered it, my goodness, I cannot tell you about the freedom. But before we move on to boundaries with other people, it's also important to have boundaries with self. That speaks to food, that speaks to how we speak to ourselves, that speaks to the discipline we have with ourselves, because the same boundaries, if we break our own boundaries to self, then nobody else will respect our boundaries because we don't even respect our boundaries, and we won't even respect other people's boundaries. Then you become that person who's just all up in people's boundaries and you don't respect anybody's boundaries simply because you don't respect your own boundaries. So before we go around putting the boundary sign, we first have to start with ourselves. Am I respecting my own boundaries to myself? And here's a good almost definition or quote that I found about boundaries. Boundaries are not drawn to keep something out, but to protect what's in. I love that so much because we think of boundaries as walls, and it's a very big difference. A wall is, this is shut, nobody can come in, it's just my space. It's isolation, I'm shutting you out. Boundaries is saying, I think let's think of boundaries as a window. It's, hey, closing the window, but I can see you. I love you. Hi. Oh, let's open the window now. Versus a wall where it's, I don't see you, don't want to see you. So I think we need to look at boundaries that way. It's to protect you. It's to protect your emotions. It's to protect your feelings. It's to protect yourself, your inner child from just spaces and feelings that may cause more harm than anything. So as mentioned, it's not walls towards other people or walls towards yourself, but it's rather just protection. It's to protect what's inside of you so that the outside world doesn't tarnish our innocence. Another quote that I love that I found says, "I set boundaries to respect myself, not to offend you." So even with our loved ones, as we communicate our boundaries, it's just nice to let them know, to know that this is not about you. It's not about upsetting you. It's not about making you feel like you're an abuser of some sort, but it's about respecting myself, respecting my feelings, respecting how I feel about myself, respecting how I take care of myself, and just really listening to my emotional, physical, and all the needs that I have. Because ultimately, what's the point of working so hard on ourselves, advocating and going to therapy, going to the gym and doing all the work and being the girl, only for one interaction to come and bulldoze all the work we've done simply because we said, hey, come on in, do what you need to do. So those boundaries are sometimes very uncomfortable, but they are very necessary. As usual, I came up with some examples of what boundaries can look or sound like. So here's some. Saying no and not explaining it. I know I haven't mastered it. Every time I say no, I almost want to explain that no, I'm saying no because this is, but no is an answer. And I look at my kids. Sometimes I'll ask Zani, can mommy have a kissy? And he'll say no and not explain. And I'm sitting here waiting, why can't I get a kissy? Is it because I made you sad? Or he'll say it's smiling because right now that's not what he wants to do. And it's okay. And most times I'm actually not even offended. I appreciate that he's honest enough to protect his space, but to also lovingly communicate that that's not what he wants to do in that moment. So As adults, we have to practice it. For me, saying no, I need a good day or two to rehearse it. Sometimes standing in front of the mirror and just saying, no, I can't do it. No, I'm not available. Writing it in notes, sending it, practicing it out loud until I get the confidence, and taking a deep breath and just saying it, and literally want to run away and hide and feel like covering myself from the world. But after that, I feel such a sense of relief versus saying yes in the moment and pleasing someone and then feel terrible for the next 3 months. So yeah, no kind of is that like instant. It's like that not doing the instant gratification thing, because instant gratification will be saying yes to please the person so that you don't feel under pressure, but then you crumble later, versus just saying, okay, let me face these feelings, let me face this confrontation right now, let me get uncomfortable, and then I can be free later. And then another boundary is finding your identity outside of the relationship. Like mentioned with me getting married, when I got married, my identity was in my husband. It wasn't necessarily in a very unhealthy way, but I think had it continued, it would have become unhealthy for both him and myself. I wouldn't have had friends, and I would have needed him to be my everything, which I find is very exhausting in the beginning of relationships, where you just want your one partner to be your everything. Like, get some girlfriends, get some co-workers, acquaintances, get a puppy, a cat, I don't know, something, a journal, so that you don't put the burden on that one person. It's okay to have someone be there for you for everything, but they can't be your I'm watching this show partner, I want to go for a run partner, I want to cry, I want to laugh. Nobody can be your everything. And I think the sooner we're okay with that, the better. But it also goes with the self-love thing, that if you love yourself, you're okay with yourself, when someone can't meet a certain need, you know that it's not a reflection of you, and it's not necessarily a bad thing from them, but it's just a boundary that they don't have the capacity. And you just have to look within yourself, or look into to the rest of your circle. How can you have that need met? So finding your identity outside of a relationship, I think, is very important. Not neglecting your relationship, not having a different world or a different life, but just have your own hobby. Have your own friends, have your own things that you like, your own show that you like, but obviously not detrimental to your marriage, your relationship, or your friendship. Okay, and then this is an example of what a boundary can communicate by saying, I am different to the other people in my family, so of course I need different boundaries. So that's something you can say to yourself where you feel a little out of place with your family and they're more easygoing with certain things or certain conversations and you're not, and you feel like you need to conform because it's Easter holidays or it's December, it's Christmas, and I need to be part of this. It's okay to say, hey, I'm different from everybody else, therefore I'm allowed to have different boundaries. It doesn't make you an outsider, it doesn't make you someone who rejects your family, it makes you someone who loves themselves and who loves their family and who respects themselves. So that's something you can say to yourself and practice all on your way to family. Another thing you can say at work, I'm honored that you asked me to help, but I'm unable to add anything else to my workload. Yeah, this one is quite a tricky one, right? Because you want to be the person who goes the extra mile, and you really should. There's times where you go the extra mile, where you do extra, but there's times where something else needs your attention right now, or you're tired, or you've planned to have this movie marathon or this series marathon, and someone says, can you quickly do this for me? And for them, it sounds like it's like, can you quickly do this for me? But for you, staying 5 minutes later at work means 30 more minutes in traffic, getting home, not being able to make dinner, not being able to watch your series. So it's okay to say, I'm honored that you asked me to help you, but I'm unable to add anything else to my workload. So hopefully you have great co-workers or acquaintances or people who respect that boundary, as long as it's communicated out of respect and out of love. The last one I want to share is with people who want to spend time with you. I know I'm a bit of a loner, so this one is a bit hard to communicate, but I'm learning. And if someone wants to spend time with you, you can say, I do want to spend time with you. And right now, I need some time alone to recharge and rejuvenate, right? How cute and wholesome and, oh, how kind and loving does that sound? I do want to spend time with you. And right now, I need some time alone to recharge. Guys, we are allowed to reject invitations. I think I had a conversation about someone saying I need to reject an invitation for a wedding because I simply can't afford to fly myself out there to get an outfit, and you don't want to be a burden. And it's a tricky one. It's a complex one. So I'm not giving a yes or no. But the person I was talking to said, I actually had to decline with love. I had to decline the invitation with love, because had I said yes, I would be in a tricky financial position right now. So it kind of sucks that they weren't there, but it's a protection for everyone. So, but like I said, situations are different. And when it comes to time and needing time to yourself, it's okay to say right now, I can't. Can we make plans for later? Or to just say, I need time to rejuvenate. Yeah, because I realize sometimes I get myself in a hole by saying, can we try next week, knowing very well next week's not looking as good either. So it's okay to take some time out and say, I'd love to spend time with you, but just not right now. And when you do have time, let us be intentional then about making time for the people we absolutely love. And then lastly, I believe that our relationships, be it friendships with our children, with our partners, our parents, can only be as good as our relationships with ourselves. So if I mentioned this, if you don't love yourself, if you don't appreciate yourself, if you don't respect yourself, it's very hard to receive love from others, to receive appreciation, to receive validation, and to even give it out. So the best place to start when it comes to this whole love thing is with self. And I love that in his book, Jay Shetty speaks about solitude first before he goes into everything else. And obviously the book is How to Find It, Keep It, and Let It Go. So hop on to our book. I'd like to know your thoughts on love, especially because it's such an emphasis in this month. What does love look like to you right now? Does it look like loving on yourself? Does it look like giving more love, opening yourself to love, or maybe just protecting yourself a little bit, protecting your heart and loving your hearts a little more? I want to know. And also, how was your Valentine's Day? Thank you guys for tuning into Wisdom and Wellness. I'm so excited to meet you guys in a few days. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to read with you guys. And I'm just excited to continue to grow with our community. I see the growth. I feel the love. And I'm so happy to be part of this wonderful community. I'll see you guys next week.
This episode is brought to you by Discam.